After 11 years of helping my family's restaurant become one of the most popular spots in town, my parents made a decision that shocked me. They replaced me with my little brother, Theron, who had just finished business school and gotten an MBA. I couldn't believe it. After all those years of hard work, late nights, and endless hours cooking, planning, and talking to customers, they just gave control of the restaurant to him. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and join the awesome community. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what you think of the story. 9 days after this shocking decision, my parents came to me begging for help. They had lost a huge $850,000 deal that I had spent months working on. I stood frozen in the doorway of Riverside Ember's private dining room. In my hands I held a shiny award plaque. It slipped from my fingers and crashed onto the polished hardwood floor. The glass broke with a loud sound, echoing like a gunshot through the quiet room. No one moved. Nobody flinched. Everyone's eyes were glued to the big projection screen. My brother's PowerPoint presentation glowed confidently. It said in bold letters, Riverside Ember Expansion Strategy CEO Theron Arwin. Theron Arwin. My throat tightened. I looked around the long, beautiful mahogany table. My dad sat smiling proudly, my mom had her hands clasped in excitement, and my brother was standing at the head of the table in a perfectly pressed suit. That used to be my spot. I had sat there for countless family meetings, making important decisions. That was my table. My place. Callista, Dad said, clearing his throat, you're late. We've already started the annual meeting. Annual meeting? I asked, my voice sounding far away to my own ears. You moved it up 2 weeks ago? Theron clicked to the next slide, which explained exactly why they wanted to make the change right now. The celebration tomorrow is the perfect time to announce the transition, he said. Transition? That word tasted bitter in my mouth. Mom leaned forward. Honey, we've given Theron control of the restaurant. Starting now. We wanted it to be a surprise. Congratulations. I whispered something, but no one heard me over the sound of my world breaking apart. Just last week I had been standing under the bright lights at the Portland Culinary Excellence Awards, accepting Seafood Dish of the Year for my king crab with tangerine glaze. The audience cheered loudly, clapping and whistling. But at our celebration dinner afterward, my parents barely touched their food. It's nice, Callista, Dad said, swirling his wine in the glass, but it's not scalable. We need to think bigger. Meanwhile, they raised their glasses to Theron, celebrating his business school network and his fresh perspectives. Never mind that while he visited during summer breaks, I had spent countless nights perfecting recipes, building relationships with local suppliers, and doubling our revenue over the last 5 years. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. You can't be serious. I have a culinary degree. I built our marketing strategy. I doubled our revenue. And we appreciate that, honey, Dad said, his tone dripping with condescension. You're fantastic in the kitchen, but Theron understands business. You can still be our head chef. Head chef. As if I hadn't been running the entire restaurant while they semi-retired to their lake house. As if all the awards, glowing reviews, and the customers who came in knowing me by name didn't matter. My hands stopped trembling as a clear thought came to me. I reached into my pocket, took out my restaurant keys, and placed them deliberately on the table with a metallic clink. I'm not just your chef. I built this brand, I said. Theron sighed dramatically. See, Dad? She's too emotional about business decisions. Dad frowned. Callista, you need to understand. This isn't personal. It's about scaling the business. Not personal? I laughed, a sound I didn't even recognize. You blindsided me during the anniversary celebration I organized. You didn't even consult me about changes to the restaurant I've poured my heart into for 11 years. That's enough. Mom cut in. Theron has an MBA. He knows what he's doing. There was again the familiar pattern. My parents automatically sided with Theron, dismissing my concerns as emotional overreactions rather than seeing them as real, legitimate business insights. It wasn't just my position at risk. It was my culinary reputation, the quality standards I had set, and the relationships I had nurtured with suppliers and loyal customers. As I looked at them huddled together, a realization came sharply into my mind. They had never seen me as an equal partner. To them, I had always been staff, the reliable worker who kept things running while they made the real decisions. You know what? I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Maybe you're right. Maybe Theron should take over. Their faces relaxed visibly with relief. I could see it in the corners of their mouths, in the way their shoulders sagged. But remember this moment, I continued, stepping back toward the door. Because when you realize what you've thrown away, don't expect me to pick up the pieces. I turned and walked out, leaving behind the shattered award that suddenly seemed to mean nothing at all. Later that night I only meant to grab my apron from the office. But then I discovered the depth of my brother's betrayal. His laptop was open on the desk, and the West Shore Grand Hotel's logo glared at me from the screen like a warning. My vision narrowed as I read the email. My fingers gripped the doorframe to steady myself. Dear Mr. Arwin, we acknowledge your cancellation of Thursday's contract meeting. While we're disappointed to postpone discussions on the $850,000 catering partnership, we look forward to your presentation of streamlined, cost-effective alternatives to the original menu proposal. The floor felt like it was tilting beneath me. That meeting wasn't Theron's to cancel. I had spent 6 months building that relationship, designing seasonal menus, calculating exact food costs, and ensuring that quality stayed high while still making sure the hotel could make a profit. $850,000. Almost a quarter of our annual revenue. Gone with a single email. I scrolled further down the message, nausea building in my stomach. They were still asking for dishes that maintain the standard of excellence we experienced during our initial tasting with Chef Callista. The betrayal ran deeper than I imagined. Just 3 weeks ago, Theron had leaned over my station, notebook in hand, asking detailed questions about my tangerine glaze recipe. Just trying to learn from the best, he had said with that boyish grin that always worked on our parents. Now I understand. He wasn't learning. He was plotting. My hands shook with an anger so strong it felt like it had its own presence in the room. 6 years of culinary school. 11 years of 60-hour workweeks. And now my little brother could swoop in and dismantle everything I had built. The next morning I pushed through the service entrance of Riverside Ember, 30 minutes before the supplier meeting I wasn't invited to. The kitchen staff exchanged worried glances as I passed, their whispers following me down the hall. I paused outside the private dining room. The door was slightly open, giving me a clear view of the antique mahogany table. Lucan, our fishmonger of 8 years, sat with a deep frown on his face. Beside him was Odalise, whose family farm had supplied our produce since before I joined the restaurant. Across from them sat Theron in a charcoal suit, the chalk marks from the tailor still visible at the cuffs. The premium seafood orders are unsustainable at our current scale, Theron was saying, sliding glossy folders across the table. We'll be transitioning to a more consistent supplier with nationwide distribution. Lucan cleared his throat. Chef Callista specifically chose our products because we can guarantee same-day catch. Your customers will taste the difference. Your customers are looking for value and consistency, Theron countered smoothly. Odalise's weathered hand tightened around her mug. Those tomatoes you love come from my southeastern field. They get morning sun but afternoon shade. That's why they're sweeter than anything you'll get from a wholesale distributor. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I pushed the door open and 3 heads swiveled toward me. Callista. This is a private meeting, Theron said, his smile not reaching his eyes. What new direction? I asked, moving to stand behind Lucan and Odalise. I reached for the folder in front of Lucan. Inside were mock-ups of new menus. My award-winning king crab with tangerine glaze was gone. So was my cedar plank salmon with huckleberry reduction. In their place were generic descriptions. Grilled seafood platter, fish of the day. You're standardizing the menu? I said, my words sour in my mouth. For chain expansion, Theron said. We're creating scalable systems. Dad and Mom agreed. The stakes crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. This wasn't just about my job. It was about everything I had built. My culinary reputation, the loyal customers who came specifically for my seasonal creations, and the $850,000 West Shore Grand contract that could have secured our financial future. Lucan, I said quietly, what will happen to your business without our orders? The fishmonger shook his head. We'll survive, but I've got 2 boats that fish primarily for Riverside Ember. I'll have to let one captain go. And I'll have to plow under half my crops, Odalise added. Theron cleared his throat. These are unfortunate but necessary business adjustments. Speaking of adjustments, Callista, we should discuss your compensation package. the head chef position doesn't warrant executive-level pay. The final insult landed like a physical blow. 11 years of 60-hour weeks, building the restaurant's reputation, and now facing a demotion and pay cut while watching everything I had created being dismantled. Later that evening, Ronan, my sous chef of 8 years, found me in the kitchen, carefully packing my personal knives. "The kitchen staff is with you," he said quietly. His voice was steady, calm, and comforting. "Whatever you decide, we believe in your standards, not his." As I wrapped my favorite Santoku knife in its protective cloth, the question weighed heavily on my mind. Should I stay and fight for the business I helped build, or walk away completely and start fresh? Fighting meant painful daily confrontations with my family. Leaving meant abandoning everything I had worked for over a decade. 2 days later, the staff meeting invitation appeared in my inbox, with the subject line, "Menu Overhaul Implementation Mandatory Attendance." I read it twice, my jaw tightening. Theron had scheduled it during prep time when he knew I would be busiest. The conference room buzzed with nervous energy as I slipped in 5 minutes late, my hands still damp from chopping vegetables. Everyone's eyes followed me. The kitchen staff looked worried, unsure of what would happen next. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and determination. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the restaurant, my reputation, my loyal suppliers, and the customers who had trusted us for years. And now I had to decide. Would I fight for everything I loved or let it all slip away? Theron stands at the head of the table, right where I usually stand, his fancy suit making him look very important, while I'm covered in flour and little bits of dough from cooking. Perfect timing, Callista. I was just telling everyone about the new plans for our restaurant. I thought this was going to be a meeting to share excitement, but instead it feels like a trap. Theron clicks the next slide on his computer. On the screen is a new menu. My special dishes are all gone. The dishes I created, the ones people loved, the dishes that made Riverside Ember famous, are gone. "We're making these changes starting tomorrow," Theron says. His voice is calm, but it has an edge. "But the king crab with tangerine glaze is our most requested dish." Odette, our head server, steps forward. She looks worried. "We have regular customers who come just for that dish. Mrs. Rowena, the Magnus. They expect it every time." Theron smiles. But his smile doesn't reach his eyes. It's tight and forced. "We need to make the menu easier to manage and faster to cook. We can't be stuck because of one chef's favorite dishes." One chef. That's me. I built this restaurant from the ground up. I created the recipes. I made the flavors. And now he acts like I'm just another worker, just another person to follow rules. The changes hit the restaurant hard. Soon our regular customers start asking about the missing dishes. The phones ring. Servers get questions from customers who are confused and disappointed. Mrs. Rowena, who has celebrated her anniversary here for 8 years, walks out without ordering when she finds out the halibut with preserved lemon is gone. She looks sad. Her husband tries to apologize, but there's nothing to say. "What happened to the quality?" people ask. Theron always blames the kitchen staff. Not himself. Not the changes he made. "The execution in the back of the house isn't meeting standards," he says. His words make me feel small. I overhear him talking to the Magnus, long-time customers who sent back overcooked steaks. Odette's face turns red with embarrassment as she apologizes. She knows it isn't her fault. It's not her cooking, it's the rules Theron has put in place. Then Portland Plate, the city's most famous food blog, publishes a review titled, "Has Riverside Ember Lost Its Flame?" The writer, who had once praised my innovative American dishes, now questions if the restaurant cares more about money than about good food. Inside the kitchen, the trouble continues. One morning, I walked in to find my special cooking tools missing. My custom smoker, my imported mandolin, and the precision thermometers are all gone, moved to a storage closet. In their place are 3 identical deep fryers. "Where's my equipment?" I ask. My voice shakes a little, but I try to sound calm. "They are in the storage closet by the loading dock," Ronan explains quietly, not looking me in the eyes. All night I lie awake, staring at the ceiling. I recreate my recipes in my mind. I think about the flavors, the textures, the way each ingredient works together. Cooking something I loved more than anything now feels like a heavy chore. The kitchen, once my happy place, has turned into a battlefield. Every dish feels like a fight. The staff walks carefully around me, caught between being loyal to me and fearing that if they make a mistake they might lose their jobs. When I tell the line cooks to finish the salmon with compound butter, Theron yells from across the kitchen. No, the recipe says olive oil only. We need consistency, not improvisation. Cooking isn't just following a recipe. It's art, science, and feelings all mixed together. Theron's rules strip away everything that makes food special. After one particularly difficult night, 3 tables send back Theron's version of my scallop dish. I go into the walk-in cooler and press my forehead against the cold metal shelves. I want to cry, but I don't. I feel frustrated, angry, and sad all at once. That night I started writing everything down. Recipes, techniques, supplier contacts. Everything. I use a leather-bound journal. If I can't save my kitchen, at least I can save my work, my recipes, my culinary legacy. The next evening, after everyone has gone home, I find a small tangerine placed perfectly at my station. Beneath it is a note in Ronan's handwriting. Your recipes, your vision. Some things can't be replaced even by an MBA. I smile for the first time in weeks. That little tangerine gives me hope. The breaking point comes during prep for the West Shore Grand Executive Dinner. The kitchen is buzzing with tension as the staff rushes to prepare for the most important service since Theron took over. The $850,000 contract depends on this dinner. Every move, every dish feels heavy with pressure. I am adjusting the seasoning on a sauce reduction when my father appears in the doorway, Theron at his side. Callista, we need to talk about tonight's menu, Dad says. His voice is careful and calm, but I can hear the tension underneath. Theron has some concerns about your preparations, he adds. My preparations are exactly what won us this dinner in the first place. My preparations are exactly what won us this opportunity, I replied, not looking up from my pot. Callista, you need to accept that Theron is in charge now, Dad says, stepping closer. This is business, not personal. Cooking is personal. That's why people come back to a restaurant. They don't come back for efficiency, they come back for love, for passion, for the feeling that someone cares about every bite. The West Shore people want scalable concepts, Theron interrupts. Not special dishes only you can make. I put down my wooden spoon and untie my apron. We don't share the same values anymore. You see food as a product. I see food as an experience. I won't watch you destroy what I've built. Don't be dramatic, Dad says. This is a business decision. No, this is my life's work, I say. I quit. I'm taking my recipes with me. The kitchen goes silent. Even the hood vents above seem to stop humming. You can't quit, not tonight with West Shore coming, Theron sputters. Watch me, I say. I haven't even reached the door when Ronan steps forward. If Chef Callista is leaving, so am I. 3 more cooks take off their aprons. My sous chef, the pastry chef, and the line lead, they are all leaving with me. My team. My people. Later that evening my phone buzzes. A text from Odalise, my produce supplier. She says my special ordering arrangements can move with me. Quality recognizes quality, she writes. For the first time in weeks I allow myself to imagine something new, not fighting for scraps of respect in my family's restaurant, but building something truly mine. That night I started sketching ideas for my own restaurant in the margins of my leather-bound journal. The pages are filled with possibilities instead of complaints. Each drawing, each note is a small piece of hope. The next morning I made 2 important calls. First, to Anthony Vicente, the West Shore Grand Culinary Director, asking for a private meeting. I need to show him I can still cook the way I know best. The second call surprised even me. I call Marianne Wells, a restaurant space realtor I met months ago. She mentioned a prime location opening in the Pearl District. I tell her, I'm ready for that space. A week later I sat at a polished mahogany table across from Jason Mercer. He has funded 3 of Portland's most successful restaurants. I slide my portfolio across the table. I've followed your work at Riverside Ember for years, Jason says, studying my photo of king crab with tangerine glaze. Your flavor combinations are remarkable. I straighten my burgundy blazer, trying to look as confident as I feel inside. My vision is modern American cuisine featuring sustainable, local ingredients. The dishes that won awards weren't luck. They were built with care, with suppliers who understand my standards. Jason nods appreciatively. Most chefs talk about ingredients. You talk about relationships and systems. That's refreshing. I've prepared for this moment for weeks. I show him my plans, rehearsing every line, explaining exactly where costs can be cut without hurting quality. Jason leans forward. I'll back you. Your portfolio speaks for itself, and your lessons learned from the family business show that you're ready to lead. How soon can you secure a location? I found a space in the Pearl District, I say. It's perfect. Fully equipped kitchen, excellent foot traffic, ready to go. 2 hours later, I stand in the empty restaurant space, negotiating terms with the property manager. Sunlight spills through the windows that will soon show Callista's new restaurant. Every decision feels like reclaiming a piece of myself. Back at my apartment, my phone buzzes. Ronan texts, "Disaster at West Shore Grand. Execs are not happy. Theron is sweating bullets." I pour a glass of Pinot Noir, savoring both the flavor and the news. Theron tried serving my tangerine glaze, but it was nothing like mine. Too sweet, the texture wrong. Already knew why. Ronan calls an hour later. You would have laughed. Theron added too much sugar to make up for using inferior tangerines. Executives noticed immediately. One even asked where you were. Theron's calling suppliers, trying to figure out the problem. Odalise isn't answering. Lucan says the premium seafood Theron was getting was based on my relationships. Relationships take years to build. 3 corporate events get cancelled that day. Word spreads about poor quality. My parents are shell-shocked. The news should feel satisfying, but I feel a complicated tangle of feelings. Happiness for vindication mixes with sadness for the restaurant's damaged reputation. Later that evening, my mom calls. Her voice is trembling. Callista, honey, please call us back. The West Shore Grand dinner is next week. We need your help. The family needs you. Please. I press my forehead against the cool window glass, watching the traffic below. I think about helping them. Would returning to save the family show strength? Or would it just let the same bad behavior continue that pushed me out? I take a deep breath. I think about my team, my recipes, my vision. I think about the little tangerine Ronan left for me. I think about all the years I worked to build Riverside Ember into something special. And I know whatever I decide, I will do it on my own terms. The next morning, Ronan came to my apartment carrying a big folder. He looked a little nervous but smiled. I thought you might want these, he said, setting the folder carefully on my kitchen counter. I looked at the papers. They were filled with numbers. Daily money reports, reservation lists, and customer complaints. The numbers showed something I didn't want to see. They were going down fast. The restaurant I had left, Riverside Ember, was struggling. I flipped through the stack, my eyes scanning the pages. Everyone would probably blame outside problems like bad weather or slow business days. But the numbers didn't lie. They were spiraling downward, and it was clear something was wrong. Ronan leaned casually against the counter. The kitchen staff is ready, he said. If you need them, they'll help. Just say the word. I nodded, thinking about the future. Then later that morning, Odalise showed up. She had a big smile and a small notebook in her hands. I want to introduce you to some farmers, she said. They grow special vegetables in the Willamette Valley. These are heirloom vegetables, meaning they are rare and hard to find in big restaurants. They could make your new restaurant, Callista's Hearth, really special. I followed her to the farm. The sun was rising and tiny drops of dew hung on the leaves like little crystals. We walked between rows of rainbow-colored chard, deep green kale, and shiny purple carrots. Odalise told me about the families who had been farming for generations. They love their work, she said. They are excited to work with a chef who truly cares about food. I could feel excitement growing inside me. The idea of having the freshest, most special vegetables, grown with care, made me imagine the dishes I could create. While I was driving home later, my phone rang. It was Lucan. Callista, he said, his voice full of energy. I have a shipment of Alaskan king crab coming next week. The quality is amazing, top of the line. Oh, and I'm having dinner with Thomas Reynolds tomorrow night. I nearly swerved my car. Thomas Reynolds? The man from Coastal Ventures? Yes, Lucan confirmed. He's looking to invest in a new restaurant concept. I might have mentioned your name. Suddenly everything clicked. Lucan's seafood connections, Odalise's vegetable suppliers, Ronan's insider knowledge. All of it could help me open my restaurant much faster than I dared hope. My heart raced as I realized that my dream was starting to come true. Later that afternoon, I got an email that made my hands shake. The executives from West Shore Grand, a large hotel and restaurant group, wanted to meet with me to talk about my own culinary ideas. They had found me. Meanwhile, Riverside Ember's social media pages were full of questions. "Where is Chef Callista?" one person asked. Reviews said that the food had lost its special taste. "It's not the same since Chef Callista left," another review read. My father's voicemails started piling up. "Callista," he said, his voice urgent, "the West Shore contract is very important for our expansion. Please reconsider. We can talk about your position." But as I looked at all of this, a thought came to me. Pride mixed with truth. They needed me far more than I needed them. For the first time, I understood that leaving Riverside Ember was the right choice. I stood in the empty space that would soon become Callista's hearth. I imagined it filled with people, filled with smells of fresh food, filled with the buzz of happy customers. This would be my future. A future built on respect, quality, and my own rules. For the first time since walking out of Riverside Ember, I smiled freely without any worry or doubt. A week later, I saw a familiar car pull up outside. My father's Lexus. A wave of satisfaction went through me. For once, they were coming to me. I stood in the doorway watching as my parents and my brother Theron got out. My father's shoulders were stiff. My mother looked nervously at the for lease sign, now marked with a bold pending sticker. Theron followed behind quietly, not saying a word. "Callista," my father said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This is interesting. It's a bit small compared to Riverside, isn't it?" I didn't answer. I just held the door open. The sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the dust from construction. The exposed brick walls and reclaimed wood floors were exactly how I had imagined my restaurant. "We've been trying to reach you," my mother said, her fingers fiddling with her pearl necklace. "The restaurant needs you." Theron cleared his throat. "We've come up with a new proposal," he said. He opened a leather folder. "Equal partnership. You handle the kitchen, I manage the business side. And we retain final decision authority," my father added quickly. "For continuity." I didn't answer. I just walked to my laptop, opened it, and turned the screen toward them. "You know what's interesting?" I said. "You never asked what I actually wanted." I showed them my business plan. "And now it's too late," I added. "I secured my own funding 2 weeks ago. The lease is signed." I pulled out another folder. It had the West Shore Grand logo across the top. "And this arrived yesterday," I said. My father snatched it, his eyes widening as he read. It was a letter of intent for partnership, offering $500,000 for an exclusive arrangement featuring my signature dishes. I couldn't hide the pride in my voice. They had wanted the real chef behind the award-winning menu, not a corporate substitute. "You can't do this," my father said angrily. Theron stammers. "The West Shore deal was ours. I cultivated that relationship for 3 years." "I didn't want your partnership," I said. "I wanted respect. And I found investors who will give me both." I handed my father another folder. He flipped through the papers and went pale. They were online reviews of Riverside Ember since I left. The quality had gone down. Customers were leaving. "Where's the chef who made this place special?" they asked. I walked past them toward the kitchen space. "The hood ventilation goes in next week," I said. "We're keeping the open kitchen concept, but we're expanding the chef's counter to seat 12. The wine program will feature small local vineyards, and we're installing a wood-fired oven." My father's face turned red. "You're making a mistake. The Riverside Ember name has recognition. People know us." "Maybe," I said. "But I was never building your brand. I was building mine. People came for my food, not your name. That's what you never understood." Just then the front door chimed. 2 men in coveralls walked in carrying a large package. "Delivery for Callista Arwin?" I asked. Perfect timing. They carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a copper sign with hand-hammered letters. "Callista's Hearth." The soft copper shone in the afternoon sunlight. "You'll lose everything," Theron said, his voice shaking. "I already did," I said. 11 years of work, my family's trust. But now I'm building something better." Theron's perfect composure finally cracked. "We can't recreate your dishes. Nothing tastes the same. The seafood supplier won't even return my calls." "That's because cooking isn't just a business formula," I said. "It's a relationship with the food and the people you serve. You can't quantify passion or personal connection. I ran my hand along the reclaimed wood counter. When they left, I stood in the center of my restaurant space. My restaurant. My future. The satisfaction I felt was deeper than I expected. 2 weeks later, Ronan forwarded me an email about Riverside Ember. They were seeking a loan to cover operational shortfalls. Regular customers were drifting away. Rumors were spreading about a complete menu overhaul. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Mom, but I wasn't ready to answer. There was too much to do. Too much at stake. The night of Callista's Hearth soft opening finally came. I weaved between tables filled with food critics, loyal former customers, and industry friends. The kitchen hummed with beautiful chaos, executing my vision exactly as I imagined. Near closing, I walked around the dining room for a final greeting. I spotted my mother sitting alone at a corner table. A half-finished plate of king crab with tangerine glaze sat before her. Our eyes met, and for the first time in months, I saw something beyond disappointment. Recognition. She was seeing me, not as a chef who had left, but as the chef I had become. 6 months later, I was in the kitchen, stirring the tangerine glaze in a copper saucepan. Behind me, 3 line cooks moved with practiced precision, their knives flashing as they prepped for the evening service. Ronan, now my executive sous chef, called out, "Chef, we're ready for the tasting menu review." I nodded, allowing myself a moment to admire the gleaming expanse of Callista's Hearth. The fall menu changes I planned celebrated local harvests. No frozen substitutes, no compromises. The seasonal rotation became our hallmark, drawing praise from critics who barely knew Riverside Ember existed. I walked to Celia, a culinary student I had taken under my wing. She was nervous. "How's my sauce?" she asked. I tasted it. "Perfect," I said. "Now, tell me why you chose thyme instead of rosemary." She explained, and I saw promise. This was how mentorship should feel. Not dismissal but genuine guidance. Later my phone buzzed. Another reservation request. We were booked solid through December, with food critics from Chicago and New York requesting tables. National press attention had turned our corner of Portland into a destination. The afternoon mail brought an envelope from the American Culinary Federation. Inside was an invitation to next month's awards ceremony, where Callista's Hearth was nominated for Restaurant of the Year. Just 18 months ago, I had stood at the same ceremony clutching an award while my parents whispered about Theron's business skills. When the announcement came at the gala, I accepted the plaque calmly. I thanked my team, Ronan, Odalise, Lucan, and every cook who had believed in me. Success wasn't just about proving others wrong. It was about proving yourself right. Back at the restaurant, we gathered after closing. Odalise brought champagne, Lucan proudly displayed the first advanced copy of my cookbook, and Ronan popped the cork. We raised our glasses at the family table, the one where meals were shared, not dictated. The next morning, 5 expansion offers from luxury hotels were spread across my desk. An invitation to judge the Pacific Northwest culinary competition sat beside them. My grandfather's old photo watched me from its frame, his diner that started it all before business plans and MBAs entered our family vocabulary. A knock at my office door revealed Theron, resume in hand. I had agreed to interview him for the operations director position after Mom's tearful intervention at Christmas. I wondered if family relationships could be rebuilt on new foundations, or if some bridges once burned should remain crossed. Sometimes the biggest favor someone can do is underestimate you. It forces you to truly value yourself.